Hello PEI, welcome to the deep dive. You know where we dive deep into the things you care about. Thanks as always to our sponsor and producer Mike Montague of RE/MAX Charlottetown. You make this deep dive possible. Today,
Appreciate it.
we are tackling a question that seems to have everybody talking. Why is it that Prince Edward Island is always ranked as one of the happiest places in Canada?
I'm always fascinated by what makes places tick, and PEI seems to have this really interesting
Yeah.
recipe for happiness. I'm really excited to explore it.
Okay, so picture this. You're strolling along a red sand beach. The air is crisp, the seafood is fresh, you're surrounded by friendly faces. Sounds pretty idyllic, right?
Yeah.
That's everyday life for many people in PEI.
Yeah.
And it's no coincidence that this kind of environment kind of cultivates a sense of well-being.
What's so fascinating is that it's more than just a pretty picture. The cost of living, compared to major cities especially, is significantly lower. And that in itself removes a huge stressor. It lets people focus on the things that really matter.
It's like they've cracked the code. Affordable living, stunning natural beauty, close-knit community. But let's unpack this a little further because it seems like PEI's happiness is built on more than just good vibes.
Exactly. One thing that really sticks out
Yeah.
is this emphasis on opportunity. PEI has this diverse and really strong economy with all kinds of industries. You've got tourism and fisheries, but also these booming tech sectors like cybersecurity and fintech. There's this feeling of dynamism and possibility. It's really appealing.
And it's not just about attracting newcomers, is it? PEI invests heavily in its residents. Government-funded education until the age of 20. Some of the lowest post-secondary tuition fees worldwide.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about setting people up for success.
That's such a key point. That level of investment, it gives people a feeling of security and opportunity. When you know that you can get an education, when you know that you have all these potential career paths, it really reduces the anxiety about the future. And I think that contributes to a more positive outlook.
It's like this ripple effect.
Yeah.
Individual well-being feeds into this really strong and resilient community. And speaking of resilience, PEI's response during COVID was remarkable. They really came together to support one another during a really challenging time.
Absolutely. Their response really showcased what collective action and community spirit can do. They prioritize the health and well-being of their people.
Yeah.
And that feeling of shared responsibility is really something special.
Okay, so I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's not just one thing, right? It's this combination of factors, the affordability and opportunity, a strong sense of community, the commitment to each other. It's like you've woven together this tapestry of happiness, and it's working.
You're really onto something here. PEI's success shows us that happiness isn't just about individual circumstances. It's about the environment we create for ourselves and for each other. And this is where it gets really interesting. Can PEI's model be replicated elsewhere? It's amazing how they've managed to keep this balance, between a thriving economy and that relaxed, community-focused lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not something you see everywhere.
Definitely not. And that balance is key. They haven't had to sacrifice their values just to have economic growth.
Right. And it really shows, they've
Yeah.
prioritized their residents' well-being. It comes through in those happiness rankings. But you know what I find really interesting is how dedicated they are to making sure everybody has access to education.
Right. You're talking about the government-funded education, up to 20 years old.
Yeah.
And the crazy low tuition for post-secondary.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, we believe in you. We want to see you succeed.
It's a powerful message. It creates a society that values knowledge and growth.
Yeah.
And when people feel supported like that and empowered to go after, what they love, well, it just naturally leads to more happiness.
Right. It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Individual well-being feeds into a strong and vibrant community.
PEI is known for how naturally beautiful it is. The rolling hills, the lush forests, the incredible coastline.
And they haven't taken it for granted at all. They've really made an effort to protect all of those natural assets. It's like they understand their value, not just for tourism, but for everybody on the island.
Yeah, it's that understanding that our environment plays a huge role in our happiness, and it's about making choices to protect it for future generations.
And that forward-thinking approach, we see it in things like their investment in renewable energy and promoting sustainable agriculture. It's like they're creating this blueprint for a happier, more sustainable future.
So inspiring. And it's not just the big picture stuff either. It's the little things, the everyday choices that make a real difference.
Right, like supporting local businesses, reducing waste, being mindful about our footprint on the planet.
Exactly. Those little acts of conscious living, they really have an impact.
Yeah. So we've talked about the affordability, the strong community ties. the dedication to education, that gorgeous environment. It's quite the list. But there's one final ingredient in PEI's recipe for happiness that we haven't really touched on.
You're talking about the unique cultural heritage.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
PEI has this rich history and this vibrant culture that's really closely tied to the people's lives.
You can just feel it everywhere you go. From the music to the storytelling, it's all passed down through generations. Then you have the incredible food and the crafts. There's a real sense of pride in their heritage.
And that pride translates into an even stronger sense of community. It's like they all share a story that binds them together, creates this feeling of belonging.
That's so important. When people feel rooted in their community, when they feel connected to their past, it gives them a sense of stability. And then they can look to the future with a lot more optimism.
Right. It's all about having that strong foundation to build on. And PEI definitely provides that.
And what's so fascinating to me is how PEI blends tradition and innovation so well. They really honor their heritage, but they're also embracing new possibilities. That seems to be a big part of why they're so successful.
It's like they found this perfect balance where history and progress just coexist. They enrich each other. And that balance really shows in their well-being.
Yeah, PEI reminds us that happiness isn't a solo thing. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels supported, everyone feels empowered to live these fulfilling lives.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into PEI and what makes it so happy, what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think it comes down to this. Happiness isn't just about what's going on in your own life. It's about the community we build, the opportunities we create, the values we decide are important. PEI shows us a really great example of how to achieve that.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we can all learn from PEI by building real connections, investing in ourselves and in our communities, honoring our own heritage. We can create happiness that spreads way beyond ourselves. Well, that's it for this deep dive into the heart of PEI's happiness. We hope you've learned some new things, and maybe even found some inspiration to create more joy and fulfillment in your own life and in your community. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep looking for those little bits of knowledge that make life so interesting.